feel like Mike Jordan. Give me the rock and I'm scoring. Hey, came from the bottom, that's foreign. I swear that I'm up for the sun in the morning. Yeah, they know that we ain't the same. 402, we rap the game. I told them this ain't a game.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Big League Chicago, brought to you by Star 6 Media. It's me, Rick, joined here with Eric. Hello. Hi. And he's got a very bold statement.
Oh yeah, I really do. But that's for later. We'll say that.
All
That's
right,
a little
that's for
teaser.
later.
A little teaser for later.
All right, you got to tell me when that is. You got to give me that clue, all right? Because I'm excited now. Now there's a little teaser for the
What do you want me to give you like a wink, like a or something?
yeah.
I don't
Let's
know.
do that.
Same wink and everything, right?
Let's give the most obvious sign ever. We've got a great show for you guys today. We've got Bears breakdown, talking about the Bears Packers in week 13. We've also got the C-Red segment talking about the Bulls over the last week. And as always, we ended with 4 stars of the week. All right, let's start off with this Bears loss. Bears lose, get swept by the Packers. What was it? Final score of 28-19 Packers win. And to basically break it down, quarter one, Cairo Santos had a field goal. Justin Fields had a 55-yard touchdown run, made it 10-0 Bears in the first quarter. We were looking good, right? We were looking good in that first quarter. Then came the second quarter. Crosby made a field goal, so the Packers finally get on the board. Montgomery did have a rushing touchdown, but Cairo did miss the extra point. Watson then had a 14-yard touchdown reception for the Packers, but the Bears going to halftime, 16-10. Feelings, vibes were high for all Bears fans. I think at least mine were for sure. And then we get into the third quarter. The only scoring there was a Santos field goal, which, increased the Bears lead to 19-10. And then the fourth quarter came and the fourth quarter went, because that was the worst quarter the Bears I think have ever seen this season. You start off with a AJ Dillon, then a Crosby field goal. And then basically the final nail in the coffin was Watson with that 46-yard rushing touchdown. And on top of that, they made a 2-point conversion. And that was pretty much it. The Bears got outscored 18-0 in the fourth quarter. And like I said before, the Packers ended up winning 28-19. Eric, what are your initial thoughts on this game? Like, it looked good in the first half. Then it got to the second half in the third quarter, and it felt like, I don't know, it felt like it was just slipping away.
Yeah. I think. Slipping away for sure. Definitely in the fourth quarter. Third quarter, I think it was still there was still a shot of the Bears still lingering around and making this into the game. Right, just remind you, it was still a game with like whenever Justin Fields threw that interception with 3-4 minutes left into the game. Right.
Yeah.
That's when you knew that interception right there is when you knew it's like, all right, this game's over with, right?
Yeah.
Let's see what the defense can do. I mean, the secondary played well defensive wise. They didn't get to Aaron Rodgers at all.
Yeah.
And I mean that's what you get when you have no defensive pass rush, when you have nothing but rookies on your secondary because of injuries and that's the defensive performance you get. You broke it down. Justin Fields, it was how should I say this? It was his best passing game as a Chicago Bear so far as a quarterback, and he didn't even throw for a touchdown. He ran for one, right? But he didn't. He didn't throw for a touchdown. But it was good to see Justin Fields chuck the ball around the field and becoming a passing quarterback in this league. And I thought that was a good thing to see. I mean, at this point, why not try everything, right? Let's see what this guy is made of, and you can tell that he has a little something in him.
Yeah, exactly. And this was probably his, like you said, his best game as a passer, right? He went 20 for 25, 254 yards. He had the 2 interceptions, but 71 rush yards, a rushing touchdown, overall of a 90.6 QBR. Again, those 2 interceptions, in the fourth quarter make it look worse than it actually was. But you also mentioned the defense. They could not put any pressure on Rodgers. At one point during the fourth quarter, I think it was like, oh, the Bears are blitzing. And I'm like, why? They haven't been able to get to the quarterback. They haven't been able to get to Rodgers at all this game. And yet they're going to try to do a blitz in the fourth quarter when nothing has worked, when they have been very consistent over 3 quarters. They let up only 10 points up until the fourth quarter started. They'd let up only 10 points. Why not continue doing what you were doing and try to contain or try to just keep them at 10 points? Instead, they try to get a little cute with it. They started throwing blitzes. They wanted to really try to get him. Oh, we don't have a sack. Let's try to get a sack. We haven't really put pressure on him. Let's put pressure on him. Why? I just, it sucked because it was really, and I don't really know who to blame here. I guess I'll ask you that later, but it was just a rough game to watch. And just to go over a few other stats, Montgomery had 61 yards and a touchdown. As far as receiving, Equinemi St. Brown had 85 yards on 3 receptions. Kmet, 72 yards on 6 receptions. Claypool got 5 receptions for 28 yards. Not bad. And then N'Keal Harry kind of reemerged for 1 reception and almost for 50 yards. And then on the defensive side, Sanborn, 11 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss. Santos, 2 for 3 on field goals and 1 for 2 on extra points. It was kind of just like an up and down game, I think, for the entire team. I guess I'll ask you, who's really more to blame for this loss?
That's a good question, right? Yeah. You go many different routes. Obviously, I will go Luke Getsy on this one, man. When the opportunity was there, when they were aggressive, they had the momentum to actually still continue being aggressive and still continue to thrive the ball and throw the ball and literally just dig the ball deep into the Packers' throat to put this game not even out of reach, but put this game into a little bit difficult for the Packers to make it a comeback. Right? I think the fact of the matter was that the Bears kept the Packers lingering around in this game yesterday was the fact of why they came back. Right? Obviously, Cairo Santos missed, 4 possible points. Sure, that's 4 points that's on the board, but I think the conservative play calling of Luke Getsy kind of just kind of threw me off, and it kind of turned me off a little bit because, how are you going to go with 1 catch from N'Keal Harry that was a bomb, a dime from Justin Fields, and then next 3 possessions, it's 3 straight runs. You know what I mean? You use Justin Fields, you got away from Justin Fields being a runner, whether if you wanted to protect him or not, that's just a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. But even then, it's part of his game. It's part of his MO. And you saw last week that the Philadelphia Eagles ran over the Packers for 5,627 yards, rushing on the ground between quarterback, running back, and even a wide receiver or 2. It's when it's the inexperience of a first time play caller, knowing what he has and what he could do, and when you have in boxing terms, when you have your opponent up against the ropes, that's where you take the most advantage of. And Getsy got him to the ropes, but then kind of peeled off. I think that's the best analogy I could give you yesterday. So if I were to blame somebody for yesterday's performance, outside Economy and St. Brown, that didn't help out his quarterback in the first interception. But I digress from that one. But yeah, Luke Getsy just wasn't aggressive enough when he needed to be aggressive to put this game sort of kind of out of reach, or at least make the comeback, a little bit more difficult for the Green Bay Packers.
And I think I 100% agree with this. I was so mad. I was pissed at the Getsy play calling. I was just speechless at sometimes. It was like, oh, hey, we just got it to N'Keal Harry on a bomb. And like you said, right? What was the play calling after that? Let's pitch it to the left side. Let's run it up the middle. Third quarter, or third down. Let's try a rush with Montgomery. It's what are you doing, man? What is going on? Where was the aggressive? I don't even want to say, maybe there was just a lot of aggressiveness before that, but it's for some reason, he gets at or near the red zone and he just like is like a dog with his tail tucked between his legs.
Yeah.
He just doesn't know what to do. He's like, oh man, oh, I'm scared now. I can't throw 50-yard bombs to N'Keal Harry or Equanimous St. Brown. It's like, what is going on? Let's try to rush it like we have been, because that's been working. And for the most part, yeah, sure, the rush game has been the best part of the Bears offense, but come on, man. Like, it's the Packers. It's the rivalry. It's Aaron Rodgers. Let's beat him once this year. Why are we doing this to Justin Fields when he's been showing throughout this entire game that he's able to pass the ball? Why are we straying away from the pass? I think he had close to 170 yards passing, if not a little bit more at that point, you know. And I feel like I was one person to say last week, like, don't play Justin Fields in this game. Don't play him. I don't want him hurt. I don't want this lingering shoulder issue to be even worse against the Packers. Packers don't have a great defense, but you never know what'll happen, right? But
Right.
wow, like it seemed like it just like he's like, yeah, let's hand it off to Montgomery. Yeah, let's hand it off to Darrington Evans. The aggressiveness was not there. It didn't look like he wanted to win the game. It's really all on Getsy in the play calling, because, and even at one point, like, I'm on Twitter and everybody's like, is Getsy just tanking? Like, is this just a tank job? You know what I mean? Like, to get that number 2 pick, to see what we can get at number 2 or what we can do with that number 2 pick. Do you like did that at all cross your mind during the game?
Oh no, definitely not. I'm not the one that to be a thinker like that, or to even have that type of thought process at all. I'm more of like that competitive type, you know, like me playing, you know, the game, not the game of football, but playing soccer and being a competitive guy myself. You know, I just thought like, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter. A win's a win. You know, as meaningless as it is against, you know, whatever, you're not going to make the playoffs. But even on top of that, you know, it's a game against the Packers, right? The meathead in me was like, hey, you know, beat the Packers at all costs. If there's 2 games I want to win throughout the whole entire season and lose the rest, it's the 2 games against the Packers. You know what I mean? Like that type of conversation.
Yep.
But no. I never saw it like that. I don't think I will ever even see it like that. Even if the team sucks more next year, let's put it in a hypothetical, right?
Yeah.
Even if they start 0-7 and whatnot, I don't think I will ever see that point where, you know, the coaching staff purposely wants to lose. I don't think I don't think my mind works like that, you know?
Yeah, and really I was really trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, I don't know, like maybe he's just being a little bit more conservative because the run has been working this entire year. Maybe he's being more conservative because he wants to make sure Justin Fields doesn't get hurt. And really, like, there wasn't too much pressure on Fields. I don't remember if he got sacked at all.
I don't think he did. I honestly don't think he did.
No, right? Like, there's QB pressure. Yeah, there wasn't any sacks. There wasn't too much that he was in, I guess, danger of getting sacked. But it's just like Twitter got in my head, and here I am thinking like, oh, Getsy's throwing the game. He's either a double agent for the Packers, or Poles came up to him and was like, hey, bro, throw the game for the number 2 pick. Like, we need this. Because if they would have won, if they would have beaten the Packers, I think they would have moved to like number 8, number 9 pick in the draft after all, you know, above all these other teams. So,
yeah, but you also got to think about it though. There's still like 4 or 5 games left. Obviously, there's 4 more games for the Bears. You know, and the schedule's not that easy. It's the Eagles after the bye, then the Bills. I mean, both of them are going to be here at home. Then you have the Lions, and then you have the Vikings. For the remainder 4 games, regardless of the fact whether if you drop from 2nd to 3rd or 2nd to 8th or 9th or whatever the case may be, you know, the schedule isn't that easy for them, isn't that favorable for them. So it kind of doesn't even matter if they come up with a win or loss, because sometimes, what if, you know, the Bears on a bye next week? What if the teams that are chasing them for that number 2 pick, you know, end up losing? It makes no difference. It doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was just so frustrating. And I think really what led me to that, just like even thinking about it, was just how frustrating it was that he wasn't letting him pass the ball. So it's just, it is what it is.
And one thing that you said too about the running game, I mean, also the running game has become successful in his offense simply because Justin Fields' legs is the reason why too as well. And they didn't
Yeah.
use that to its full, to its entirety. I mean, yeah, David Montgomery got a few run plays here and there, and the Evans kid, I mean, he only had that one burst of gain, and that's about it, right?
Yeah.
But the running game helps out a lot more when Justin Fields is your running back 1 or running back 2 or 3, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
John says, he's RB1 and QB1. But even then, so it's still kind of like that's what makes your offense run, your running game working. He's using Justin Fields as that guy.
And it was made pretty obvious in that game against the Jets too, when we had Trevor
Yeah.
Siemian. Like,
Oh,
wow, this team is
exactly.
nothing without Fields.
Exactly, and you could tell they only scored what, 10 points that game or that
10
day or
points.
something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Justin Fields is your guy to give you those points, right? Again,
Mhm.
another rushing touchdown for 50 plus yards. I think he's the first quarterback ever to do that in like 4 or 5 straight games and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I mean, look, it works for him for a reason, and it works for your offense, and especially if you have a quarterback as talented as Justin Fields, it just, again, it just, like, it works. And the graph that they put up on Fox yesterday: Bears number 1 in rushing, Bears last in passing, Bears rank overall. What is it? 18th, 19th, 17th?
19th. Yeah,
I
19th.
mean, look, we would have been like happy, or if we would have had this type of offense with the 2018 defense, and that would have been
Oh
Super
my
Bowl bound
God.
ish right there. Just having number 1 something, because the Bears rank
Yeah.
like, you know late 20, almost like in the bottom of the league in every offensive category back in 2018 when Mitch was the quarterback.
Oh
Just
yeah.
imagine that. Just even having the number 1 rushing offense would have been such a difference maker with that team. And it
That
just,
would
right,
I was gonna say that would have been great.
it just would have been amazing to have. And even then, even the defensive stats, it was, the Bears were like top 10 in passing and like dead last in rushing and like 20th
Yeah.
in defense. And it's it's the Bears, as much as we see them week in and week out,
Mhm.
and we think they're dog crap. It's just, statistically, it's like they're just like the rest of the NFL, mediocre and like average. Is just that certain wins didn't go their way in the beginning, and it's just, that's what makes you a bad team, is just, or
Yeah.
make you having a bad record. Like the games that you're supposed to win, you don't win, and it's just, that's what gives you the record where they're at right now.
And the Bears, I think, have lost 5 or 6 games by
I think
one
it's
score
6
this
now.
season. 6? Was that 6?
They
Yeah.
haven't won since, like, what was it, October something?
No,
The
they
one against the
haven't.
Patriots.
Yeah, they haven't won since the Patriots, and that was when they scored 33 to
Yeah.
30, 34, something like that. And
Hmm.
we were like, "Oh man, here comes the offense," right? Like when that happened, and that's 6 in a row. That's 6 in a row for the Bears that they've lost. Um, Joining us here in the comments, we got Tony Football
Oh, my bad. I was gonna do
saying,
it.
"Oh, you're good. Don't be frustrated, boys. Yesterday's game needed to happen. We need to continue to lose. The second pick is a sexy pick with a lot of value."
Mm,
Um,
I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess, but also at the same time, it's just, yes, it's a pick that has great value, right? Simply because of what position or what team wants it, right?
mhm,
Whether if you
mhm.
want to trade back for more picks for the team that needs that quarterback, right? The quarterback for the future, because there's only like 3 quarterbacks in this draft coming up, and it depends on what team is better than the other. But the point is just, like, you need to find a way to win, right? This
Yeah.
5-6 game losing streak that we have, yes, it's, I mean, for trade or for draft purposes is great, right? But at the end of the day, we don't want we want, uh, how should I put it like this? How should I say it? The Bears should at least win a game or two of this magnitude, of this portion of just being in these games where it's down
Mhm.
to one drive. I could care, again. I can care less if you, again, if you're the bad team, but down the stretch, when the game's on the line, when the clock is ticking down and you have the last possession to win the game, like the Bears should occasionally win 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 5, 1 out of 4 at least,
Yep.
just so they could know what it feels like to win a game that close.
Yep.
And that's the thing. We don't want to be. I mean, we're looking like the Detroit Lions of last year, and it's like,
Yep.
it's a sucky feeling to have that feeling, even though like you said, the second pick is a sexy pick. Yes, that's fine, but I rather for my quarterback, because I know most of these players are not going to be here next year. I
Yep.
want my quarterback to know how it feels to win a game in crunch time, because we have seen it time and time again in these type of moments that Justin Fields hasn't delivered in that moment, whether if the coaching puts him in that position or not. And
Eh,
I just once, right? I
yeah.
could care less, but just once, let that happen. That way, the kid knows and feels and understands how does it feel to win a close game in the NFL.
And and I think in my opinion, there's two ways you look at that, right? Like the one way is like Justin Fields cannot muster up a good 2-minute drive to get the Bears at least within field goal position, right? So there's that way to look at it. Like Justin Fields is just not it. He's not doing these game-winning drives like we would expect him to. The other side you look at is like the gutsy conservative play calling before that. How bad was it where now you put him in a situation where it's like, well, he needs to win, but you're not giving him the opportunity to win. Instead of, while you're putting him in a situation like this, like you have to march down the field 75 yards to get a touchdown. What happened to the play calling prior? What happened after that N'Keal Harry 49-yard bomb? What happened after Equinemius St. Brown had that really good catch, or when Montgomery had some good rushes or this and that? You could have been up just like you were against the Patriots when you were putting the Patriots away. You were scoring at a great clip, putting them away. And yeah, they battled back, but you had a lead going into the fourth quarter, going into the last few minutes of the fourth quarter, and you didn't need to put Justin in a situation like that. I agree 100%. Justin does need to get in a habit of being able to march down the field, get him within at least field goal position, because that would have won us a couple of games in this 6-game losing streak.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's just a couple ways to look at it. There's so many factors that go into it. And I feel like a lot of people who aren't Bears fans are saying that Justin just doesn't have it. And I mean, I disagree. We got Tony here. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, I was going to read it. Imagine if
Mm.
if they would have won, it would have gave us pride, but then the Packers would have moved up in the draft.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, right? But at the same, like we mentioned earlier, though, we mentioned earlier, the Bears will be on a bye next week. I mean, everybody is either going to pull up a win or pull up a loss against them, regardless of the fact, right? But then again, the schedules for them gives them, the Eagles, the Bills, the Vikings, and the Lions. Whether or not the Vikings are going to be fighting for that number one seed in the NFC, depending if whatever the case may be. But they're going to lock up the division within the next 2 games or so.
Oh yeah.
So it doesn't really make a difference. We don't know what kind of Lions team or Vikings team we're going to see at the last game of the season. So that could possibly be a W right there. I mean, it just, again, cool that we have the second pick and we lost. All right. I get that for draft purposes and rebuild purposes and so on and so forth. Cool. But again, at the same time, and I'm going to keep saying it, like, just give me one. Just give me one. Just give me one win. Just give me one. Just one. Just one.
And if it's against the Bills,
what difference does one make?
Like, I mean, Bills,
we know we're not going to get a win against the Bills on Christmas Eve. Cool. We know we're not. We may or may not get a win against the Eagles in 2 weeks here. Okay, cool. The Lions game is always a toss-up, but at the moment, the Lions. After yesterday between the Commanders and the Giants, I felt like the Packers won 2 games in one day yesterday of that time, making it to the playoff picture, right? And so did the Lions in that aspect. So it just kind of feels like, where are we going to? I mean, are we going to have to wait till the last game of the season and the new year for the Bears to finally get a win? Against the backups of the Minnesota Vikings, where it doesn't really mean anything. But even then, so it's just kind of like, He goes on and says, right now, this season, we aren't going anywhere. Well, I mean, duh, right? I don't mean to like down on
Yeah.
his comment, but I mean,
Yeah.
it was just, I think we all knew this probably like a couple weeks ago that this season was already a wash and we're already looking forward to
Mm-hmm.
drafting, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He goes on and says, we face the Packers and we see a glimpse of the future and a glimpse of the past. We've seen what Justin does best and will continue to do against the Packers going forward, but we also seen a late interception that cost us games against the very same team. Now, look, I don't know how you feel, Rick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of want to ask you this question because Jose has brought it up right now, but the first interception, I think everybody and their mama, even my daughter, said that EQ didn't fight for that first interception, right?
Yep. Yep.
The second interception, I think all of us we dealt it a lot with Jay Cutler, right? I think that's
Mm-hmm.
an interception that you kind of live with simply because of the position that the Bears put themselves into and not putting this game away or trying to make a comeback into this game to
Yep.
where Justin Fields technically is throwing a mid Hail Mary to put the Bears back and put this game on his shoulders, right?
Yeah. I I agree. The first one, even St. Brown said it. Like I should have fought more for that ball instead of just letting it get intercepted. It looked I, it looked bad, off the rip. When I saw it, I was like, "Who's he throwing to? Why is ESP just like nowhere near the ball?" But I assume with the route, he should have cut in a little bit faster, done this, done that. Is what it is. The last one, yes, the game sealing one, he was just trying to make a play. He thought if I threw it up, he could try to make it. We're within the 5, right? And yes, I think that one, like you said, you live with because you're down 9 points. You're not going to get a win here. You're not going to get a win with this drive. Could you get the touchdown, get 2, maybe just not get the 2, but can you go, get a onside kick and then go again, drive down the field a little bit? Sure, but I mean, I think with that 28-19, absolutely. Just go for it, man. Like I'm not mad at all for that second one, but it did put the game away. So I'm not too mad at that one.
I think even the first interception kind of put the game away because I think that one just sucked the air out of the whole stadium and even in your own living room if you're watching the game. So, you're right.
And
Echo
that's
Namath, St. Brown. It felt like even in his when he tried to stop his route, he looked like he high stepped his way there. Like it just looked
yeah,
so bad
it
the way
did.
how he stopped.
It did.
Jose
And
doesn't agree with us. We don't need to find a way to win because we don't have the talent. A lot of these guys will not be on the roster next year. Right? Exactly.
yeah,
I mean, I said that. It does. It doesn't. It like most of these guys are not going to be on the team next year. But guess who is? Justin Fields,
Justin
which is the
Fields.
most important player. Going into next year, and you're an
Yep.
important player going down in the future. If we really think he's the quarterback of the future, like it's important for him and his confidence to get to understand. Like even with less talent, I can still win or make a comeback or muster up a comeback. For a W. Imagine when I do have talent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a mindset type of thing. He knows how it feels to win. He said himself he's never been on a losing team until he got here. Well, I mean, yeah, but I
I
mean,
think it's different.
but it's different. High school
Yeah.
and college is completely different. In high school, you're not going to play against top-rated players, and in college, your safeties are accountants or something. You know what I mean? They who know how to play the game of football, but it won't take it to the next level, right? The NFL,
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
NFL is a different monster. So it's kind of like it's one of those is that they will get their time to win when it matters. I mean, it matters at any point, in the season, whether if you're having a losing season, whether if you having a rookie quarterback or a second or a third year quarterback, or when you're contending for a title or a division or something, like it matters at every single cost, no matter what. Right now, it will just feel just okay or just right for Justin to have a game winning drive in the NFL because it's different in the
Yep.
NFL than it is in college
And
to
it's
have
it's
that.
like and it's like you said earlier that I've been saying all season too when they started getting a little bit better. I don't want them to be the Lions, man. I don't know. I don't know if it's just me, but I really haven't heard anything either negative or positive about Eberflus. A lot of the talk, at least from media, has been on Getsy, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for Eberflus. I don't know if
Well,
that's like, hey, he's kind of like a guy who brings the locker room together, or he's just kind of like a coach who is just there as a placeholder for the head coach position. You know
Well,
what I mean?
remember, he did say the moment that he got hired, he did say that the defensive coordinator is going to call the defensive plays and the offensive coordinator is going to call the offensive plays. So right then and there, that pressure of
Mhm.
him calling games. I mean, him being a defensive coordinator, right? I mean, obviously he's not going to call the offensive side of the ball, but at least on the defense side of the ball, I mean, just imagine if Getsy, I mean, if Eberflus calls the defensive play calls with this defense, then we'll
Yeah,
have a lot more questions on him or towards him
that's
or
true.
anything like that to see how good of a coach or how good his defensive scheme is. Granted, he'll have a pass simply because the players are not on this roster, but
Mhm.
what he did is he alleviated that problem from the very beginning, and he says, "Well, I'm gonna be in charge of the game clock of this and that." Even though the game clock yesterday, I mean, whatever the case may be, wasn't all that great, but
Mhm.
it is what it is, and he's focusing on the game and his offensive so that just alleviated on him. So that's why the pressure's not really technically. There's no pressure on him whatsoever. That's why it's always on Getsy because Getsy is that guy that is
Yeah.
calling those offensive plays. So Jose goes on and says, when they have the talent, when he develops a little bit more, all the season is a season for him to develop and get more of a feel for the NFL. Also for the coaches, Getsy needed a game like that for him to realize that that play calling sucks. Well,
I I don't know. I don't know if that he really needed that. I mean, it's been pretty obvious, like a couple late game drives over the last 6 games during this losing streak, right? Like,
yeah,
hey man, some of the stuff you're calling kind of sucks, and you're really relying on Justin Fields. And I understand that we don't have the talent, but it's still like it's not great play calling.
no, it's not. It's not great play calling, but it's like we how should I say this? I know that we feel like it could be better with the less, right? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like again, like we said, it like Getsy was aggressive, big bombs, and every throw that Justin threw was dimes, bro. It
Yeah,
wasn't ugly passes. It was just right on the money type passes to EQ to Dante Pettis, even the one to N'Keal Harry, and
yeah,
and the one for Claypool. They were all like perfectly thrown balls, and it's just like again, I think it's the first year play calling jitters, whatever the case may be, even though we have like 13, 14 games already in the season. It's
hmm,
like it's you could still tell like he's even understanding how to call these plays. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
as bad as they may look, as bad as it may sound, or maybe he is getting like, hey, maybe he is getting something from Eberflus, like, hey, great play. Let's reserve a little bit or see what he could do. I think
yeah.
everybody is learning on the job as everybody being first time as play callers and as coaches.
Coaches. Yeah, and I would agree. I mean, it's better than what's been happening in Denver. No offense, Kyle, but uh, that stuff with Hackett, like that's rough. So I'm glad at least we're getting some offense going, and there seems to be like an emergence of Fields as QB1 and as Getsy as being the play caller.
Yeah, Jose goes on saying no because that contradicts 1 win out of 6. Isn't you learning how to win games? I mean, how we haven't even won games since October, so at least 1 win is 1 win, right?
I
I
would
don't
love
care what the
one
case
win.
may be. So he's like, that 1 win makes no sense. That's the me head of fuck the Packers pride that's talking. No, I think it's. I don't even care if it was the Packers. I don't even care if it was the Giants, the Commanders, the Eagles, the Saints, the
Yeah.
Giants. I may say that the Chiefs, the Bills. To me, it doesn't matter who it is. Like
Hmm.
the Bears have been playing and losing one possession football for the past 5 weeks.
Yep.
Maybe what 4 times, six,
Hmm.
3, 4 times. So it's kind of like it's kind of like okay, like at this point, it's kind of like all right, man. Like when are you gonna prove that you could win big game situations? Well, not big game situations, but like very tight games because that
Hmm.
that does take you in the long run, it does take you somewhere in the long run too. Or am I crazy?
No, no, you're right. And I hate that it's 6 in a row now. That's the thing. Like, if we would have won one to at least break this streak up, imagine winning coming into a Packers game. You imagine winning last week against the Jets, coming into the Packers game. I think that would have been huge. Honestly, I think that would have helped the team just as a whole be like, okay, we won last week against the Jets, against a really good defense with Trevor Siemian. Maybe Fields doesn't get hurt and he plays that game. Just looking at it from another angle. But you come into the Packers game with a win, just breaking your losing streak, and you're like, hey, we can get the Packers. We can absolutely beat the Packers. Aaron Rodgers looks like trash right now. He can't find a receiver, which, by the way, Christian Watson is good. But before that, he can't find the really a competent receiver. The defense is like really nothing to be scared of. The offense, the way it's been going for us, yeah, we can go in there and win. And we're at home. There are all these factors coming into it. You never know, man. That could have been a two wins in a row, or at least 2 wins in the last 3-4 games, something like that. Again, like you said, I think it does 100% make a difference, and they just got to learn to win these games. And maybe the defense, when you're doing something like holding them to 10 points for 3 quarters, maybe try and do, replicating that in the fourth quarter instead of giving up 18.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. And it was a team, the Bears defense, whether if it was with or without Roquan Smith. I mean, they gave up the less points in the fourth quarter than any team in the NFL. And apparently, with the last couple of weeks, they've been giving up a lot of points in the fourth quarter. So it's kind of like, it's a talent efficiency that we have right there on that side of the ball too as well. I mean, look, the talent wise is not all that great all around, both on offense and on defense, and even on special teams. But with that being said, it's kind of like, all right, I mean, at this point, it is what it is. But again, just for a confidence builder, for a competitive standpoint, I don't care if it's one win. Jose said he's about to hop on. He just got home. Apparently, I'm pissing him off because the competitor in me just wants to win. Just like everybody in the NFL, right?
Do it.
Just it's a competitive aspect and a competitive nature of one who played the sport, who plays sports.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it is what it is. I mean, look. Right now, the Bears are sitting pretty right at the number 2 overall pick for next year's draft, right? And a pick that is by far like the most, like Jose said earlier, the sexiest pick because of what's coming into this draft the following year. It may be sexy, but it's still up in the air whether or not the Bears are going to use that pick, or B, the Bears are going to trade that pick. And I think that's going to be the topic of conversation once the season is over.
Yeah.
In what the Bears are going to do this offseason, because that's going to be the main focal point, not only just for us here on this podcast, but nationally too as well. Like what are the Bears going to do with that pick? Man, we don't need you, bro. You can hop off. You got to work tomorrow, man.
No. I don't want to hear
football.
I don't want to hear. Look, you guys are reading my comments. I get it's a show. Okay, you guys are talking, but you guys are reading my comments way too late. My comments are responding to what you guys are saying in real time. So when Eric's saying, "Oh, we just need one win," just for them to know how it feels to win, Justin Fields, when his team is ready to actually compete for a championship, isn't going to go back. You guys, you remember that one game against the Packers in 2022? You remember that game? Oh, I'm going to go back to that game because that game really did something for me. That game really helped me understand the way of winning.
That's the reason why you really want to come on for this, bro. Seriously.
We don't need wins this season. Learning how to win isn't going to help you at all this season. It isn't. He can learn how to win next season when this team is fully stacked with guys who are actually going to help him compete. This loss against the Packers is what is needed, and a loss next week against the week after against the Eagles, and so on and so forth, because we need to develop this team. Look at the Eagles. They're prime and ready for a championship now. Not because they learned how to win or certain games last year, because they were developing. How many draft picks did they have this last draft? Did you guys know they had 3 first-round draft picks this last draft?
Yeah,
3, and they have another one in the top 10 coming up this season.
Yep.
It's not because they learned how to win certain games last season. It's because they're developing and they're getting talent around Jalen Hurts. That's what we need to do for Justin Fields.
But right now we have one pick in the top 10. That's
Right.
I mean,
So it
we
doesn't
have a
really make a
few in the
difference
second
over-
round.
Right.
But what can we do with that number 2 pick with that value? We can trade it and get multiple in the first round, like the Eagles did.
Yeah.
So that's
But
what
the
I'm
Eagles
saying. But that's
also-
not going to happen if we keep winning.
Eagles also made the playoffs last year, though.
They
make
did.
the playoffs
There's no
last year
way the
too, so
Bears-
you kind of really just
They did. I get it.
I mean, that's why it's kind of it's not a good take, but it's not a it's a bad take, but not a good take either. Simply because again, the Eagles made the playoffs last year, and all they really did was just get AJ Brown, and you could tell the difference of that team. They got beefier on the O line, which they really needed a little help with, and that's what it is. And now the O line in the Eagles is the best O line in the whole entire NFL. Right. And then on top of that, you give them what depending on what you rank AJ Brown, top 5 wide receiver in the NFL.
Right, but half these guys in this team to this year is not going to be here next year. Just
and that's fine. And I get that.
So
and I said that.
So if you want him to learn how to win, he needs to learn how to win consistently throughout the season. One win out of the next 6 or 7 isn't going to do nothing.
But even then, so even one win in these tight closed games. At least it gives him the confidence that he could win with less. And then imagine when he gets the more talent, when he wins more consistently, and it's just like, okay, cool. Like
this kid knows
it's a confidence booster.
This kid's a smart kid.
You're right. Like you said, he learned how to win in college. Yeah, but high school and college is completely different than the NFL because it's a completely faster game. So like if you learn how to win with less, imagine when you have more. I mean, last year Jalen Hurts won with less and then still ended up making the playoffs. And now that he has this wide receiver and the best offensive line and players galore everywhere, he is in the MVP conversation. So regardless of the fact, it just getting a win means so much in the NFL because
conversation because he has talent around
it's hard
him
to come by in the NFL.
Right.
No matter if you have the top talent,
but he has talent around him, Eric. He has talent around him, and they got that through the draft. The Bears, like you said, the Bears aren't a team. The Bears aren't a team that are prime. The Bears aren't a team, right? Or free agency. Okay, great. Free agency or the draft, regardless of the fact. They had 3 draft picks in the first round last season, and they had free agency that, as you mentioned, grabbed a valuable pick or a valuable person in wide receiver AJ Brown, right? Nice. The Bears, they didn't have that up to this season. They didn't, but they can going forward. They could trade the number 2 pick, get a plethora of picks this draft, and they have the most cap space in the entire league going into next year.
So many holes on this team.
Exactly.
So many holes.
Exactly. Which is why I'm saying we're not the Eagles, right? And I agree with you. We're not the Eagles where we're primed and ready to win, but we need everything that we can get, and we're not going to get all that unless we lose. Let's be honest. We're not. As Rick mentioned, we have so many holes in this team. We got to trade that second pick and get more. But we're not going to do that if we win 1 game, 2 games. You guys want them to win every single week. What the hell's going to happen?
We're a mid-team. I'm not asking to win every single week. It's
the same thing you're spewing every single week, is it not? Oh, the Bears need to find a way to win. Oh, man, I wish they had a chance to win. But Justin Fields did this, and the play calling was this. Come on, man. You say the same shit every single week.
And it's the Packers. Same conversation that we're going to have until that finally happens. But even then with the second pick, it just, again.
If they won as much as you wanted them to win, they wouldn't be able to do anything.
But at the end of the day, that second pick at the moment means it just means it's just hype for like whatever may happen. The Bears could trade back and get more picks. The Bears could still use it. Again, it's the same topic of conversation we're going to have, not only just us, but like I said, the national media up until that day happens because we don't know what's going to happen. And like we said, we have holes everywhere. Money can only solve so much of your problems.
Which is why we need those extra picks.
And we only have 7 picks, 8 picks this draft. That's not a lot to build up this team.
8 plus whatever.
And whether if you use that second pick for the edge rusher off of Georgia or you trade back, if you trade back, yes, you're gonna still have more rookies and more talent on this team. But at the end of the day, those picks are going to hit. And that's the factor that we don't know yet. That's why right now at this moment, I don't care if the Bears win. One game is one game. What is it? Is it going to kill you? No. But what I'm saying is the Bears in these tight games that they've been losing, at least one of those wins, at least win one of those games so that it's like, okay, cool. I know how to win a tight game with less talent. Now imagine if I had more. Then it's a whole different topic of conversation because winning those tight games builds up your confidence a lot more than just losing them.
You guys talked about you don't want the Bears to be the Lions. I want us to be the Lions because the Lions last year were the team that lost every single game. They were the team that were close in every single game, but lost every single game. And now you see it. Now you see that come into fruition because what did they do? They got a stud on their defense in Aiden Hutchinson. They focused on their offense like they always do, and they're a really great offense. And now you're starting to see them with 5 wins in a row. They didn't learn how to win last season,
right?
But they're learning how to win this season.
But they're
not going to do anything. But we could. All I'm trying to say is we don't need to win one game to learn how to win. You could do that throughout the season and go on a streak like the Lions are right now.
But the Lions started off the season worse, as bad or if not worse than we did. Like there was a complete turnaround these last few weeks.
Exactly.
When I think it was the week before they week that played us, right? Something happened. They were. I mean, what's his face? The coach. It almost seemed like he was about to lose his job. The Ford family was like, hey, you know what? Let's keep him. We believe in him. And Dan Campbell. And then they started they turned it around. If we start off like the Lions next year, like they did this year, I don't think Eberflus is a guy, and me and Eric were just talking about it, is a guy that has the enthusiasm like Dan Campbell does. I don't think he has a locker room like that. I don't think he imposes his will on a locker room like that. Now, I agree. A win won't cure everything.
That's the question. Do we have the right guy?
But I agree. A win won't cure everything. Right. But we're closer to the Lions than we are the Eagles. And it goes back to talent. It goes back to the draft. It goes back to what are we going to do with it? But I don't know, man. I would rather Justin Fields, who came from a culture of winning his entire career from high school up until now, to be able to be like, you see him every time he goes up to the podium for a loss. That dude's not smiling whatsoever. You want him to continue to just be mad the entire season, go into next year being like, yeah, we're going to do great. And then it's just like the same stuff happening over and over and over. It does build a culture of losing. It builds that culture.
I do believe though, like with whatever the Bears do the offseason, great. I mean, if they bring in the talent to help them out, cool. I think we'll probably see a different attitude from Justin, right? And learning how to win in that aspect. But again, with that point being said, it's kind of like, I don't think it's a losing culture that we're being. Yes, you're right. I mean, what's better than the Lions? I mean, the Lions are barely 5-7 now, so it's kind of like, how much of an improvement can you really have? I mean, it's the Lions, so you can improve way more, right?
Yeah.
It's just, I guess what I'm trying to say is, it's like, do it now while there's like really nothing to gain, just to see like if you can do it now, and then when you get the talent, everything will just come by so easily. But you can tell, even with the less talent, the game is sort of started to become a little bit more easy and a lot more slower for Justin Fields with the lack of talent around him. So if that's a win, cool. I guess I'll take that win when I can take it.
That's the only win we should be looking for, though, is the fact that Justin Fields continues to develop.
Yeah, but a team win boosts the morale boosts
let it boost the morale. Half
a lot
guys
more
are
than just having a good performance and doing this and doing that, and still ended up losing.
Eric, the thing is, boost the morale. All you need to do is boost Justin Fields. You want to make him happy? Put talent around him. Basically, point,
or get a win
blank,
here and
period.
There. A win
Half these guys aren't going to
be
here. Half these guys aren't going to be here. So I don't give a rat's
ass. Regardless of the fact, even half the team are not going to be here. Still having a win is still a win at the end of the day.
Oh man, look. Continue to lose. Right now is the best possible scenario. Justin, it's not like we're getting blown out 50-piece by the Packers. All right. Justin Fields is progressing every single week. We see it. We see what this team is without him, and we see what this team is with him. That is a win for me. This season for me is A, over, but B, I'm going to chalk it up as a win. I'm going to chalk it up as a better season than it was last year, and we're going to have a better record last year. But at least we know we have a quarterback that we have for the future that we could build around.
That in itself is a win.
Of assets to build around him. And you're right. We don't know what Ryan Poles is and what he can do with everything that he's given this upcoming season. But this is out of our control that he is the general manager, and he needs to pony up and show us why he is the general manager. And if he doesn't do it, then we talk about how much he sucks and we want him out of here next season. But if he does, boom, then we're good, right? We do it every year, anyways. Every year it's the same thing. At least we're picking a lane that we suck and we need to get better. And the only way to get better is to lose more games, so we have more value for this team to develop. Whether these guys in the future that come in pan out or not, that's not up to us. But we can at least root for the latter, that hoping that they are going to turn out to be good. That's all we can do. But I'm not going to sit here and root for wins just to be a mid team to have a 20 pick, and then you guys are worried about if we can do a number 2 pick. Imagine if we have a number 20 pick. Come on, man. I don't want to hear that. Regardless of the fact Ryan Poles is the GM, let's at least give him everything he needs possible to turn this team around. Which is why I'm okay and happy with these losses.
And that's why, like, I was, you know, I'm sure you heard it, but I was talking to Eric. I was like, hey, this conspiracy theory of just tanking, it makes sense. It makes 100% sense. Getsy all of a sudden gets conservative with the play calling, leads to 0 points. Poles did all these moves earlier. Like it just makes sense. But I as a competitor, Ryan Poles played in the NFL, right? Getsy and Eberflus and Alan Williams and all these guys, I'm sure, are competitors too. But Jesus, man, like a win. Just give me a win. I know you don't want any, Tony, but I want to win.
One. I mean, one win is really not going to hurt you as much anyways. You could say that they could drop you all the way down to 4th or 8th or whatever the case may be. But to be honest, like, it's just, there's only 2 teams that you really have to worry about, and that's the Broncos and the Rams. And I know they have a win or 2 in them this regular season anyway. So it's kind of like, pick your poison. We have the Bills, Eagles, Vikings, and Lions to end off to the season. So it's kind of like,
and this is cool. And this is a quarterback heavy draft. We don't need a quarterback. I don't think we need to be number 2 in order to have a great draft. I mean, you have Denver, you have the Rams, you got Carolina, you got New Orleans coming up, Jacksonville, Houston, number 1. Those, like, they're going to want quarterbacks, and if not, they're going to want to trade up for it.
Which is why you give it to the highest bidder, Rick.
Definitely the Saints.
Which is why you want the number 2 pick. Wait, but that's the reason why you want the number 2. We know the Texans are not giving up that number 1 because they also need a quarterback. That's why the number 2 should be the most coveted pick if you're the Bears, because you just said it. You have all these teams that need quarterback, and you give that number 2 pick to the highest bidder, the ones who have
but
the worst record who has more picks.
You could also say the same thing about, hey, if I win a game and I all of a sudden got the 4th pick and I've got 2 teams who are ahead of me that are going to pick quarterbacks, why does it matter if I'm going to get my guy at 4 instead of 2 and 3?
Rick. It's not guaranteed. You don't know exactly who's going to make it up there.
I know that the Rams, who gets the Rams first round pick this year? The Eagles, right?
Not the
Lions, right?
The Lions do it. And I'm not sure. I'm not so sure they're sold off Goff either. So it's a risk.
What I mean. Are they
Carolina Panthers might lose a couple games and they might be the number 2. You don't know. All I'm saying is Denver, that it's a risk.
Denver right now is a 3rd pick. Who has their pick? The Seahawks. If you don't think the Seahawks are going for a quarterback, I don't know what to tell you. Like, yeah, they're going for a quarterback. Geno Smith is not the answer.
You still,
but there's only 2 good quarterbacks coming out this league.
But to be honest, there's only like 3 quarterbacks.
2. There's like 2
quarterbacks in this draft that people are gonna. The dude from Ohio State, and who's the other one? Damn,
it's C.J. Stroud, and then it's also who's the other guy? Fuck.
The guy from Alabama.
No,
but I think I think C.J. Stroud is the one from Alabama. But there's there also may be Williams from USC. It depends if he's willing to come out. Williams from USC is also a really good quarterback. With a high ceiling coming out. Right, he's really highly touted, but. Regardless, you guys are just making my point as to why we need the number 2 pick, because there's only 2 quarterbacks that are going to come out that are worthy of taking at that spot.
So then let's say Houston takes one of them, and the Seahawks and the Lions are 3 and 4. Let's say the draft is what it is now at the end of the season. What can we get from the Seahawks? What can we get from the Lions? What can we get from Carolina?
It doesn't have to be them. It could be anybody. It could be anybody that's lower that needs a quarterback that has capital. It could be anybody. It doesn't have to just be those 3 or 4 or 5 guys. Because remember,
but assuming everyone above that has a quarterback already, no,
there's no. I mean, Carolina needs one. Atlanta needs one. I'm sure they're not. I'm sure they're not sold on Marcus Mariota.
The Eagles have the Saints pick, and the Saints right now are number 6. Do they need a quarterback?
You can't tell me the Giants are really sold on Danny Dimes over there. I really don't think. I really don't think they are. There's a lot of teams. The Vikings are probably not sold on Kirk Cousins, depending on what he does. The 49ers are need a quarterback. They're not sold on either of these 2 guys. I don't think. There's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks to have talent and draft guys. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
but that's going to be too far back.
Whatever.
Now you're
You
talking
pick
about
a
the
team
Giants
then.
and the 49ers, the two teams that are going to be in the playoffs or
You
fighting
pick
for
a
the
team.
playoffs.
Then
So
you
it's
pick
kind
a
of like,
team. You pick a team. Whatever the case is, it doesn't
all
have
right,
to just
look,
be draft picks.
let me give you guys the overall standings. All right, the number one pick we know is the Houston Texans. The number one
Yep.
two pick is we know is the Chicago Bears. The number
Mhm.
the third worst team is the Los Angeles Rams, but that trade is going to the Lions, right?
Yep.
The fourth worst team is the Denver Broncos, which that trade is going to the Seattle Seahawks, right?
Mhm.
Then comes the Jacksonville Jaguars, the New Orleans Saints, the Carolina Panthers,
Saints need
the
a quarterback.
Cardinals, then the
Panthers
Colts,
need a quarterback.
Packers, Falcons, Steelers.
Colts need a quarterback. Matt Ryan he should retire after this season.
Yeah.
There's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks this season. A lot.
So,
Who do we
so
get
it's
from the
kind of like,
Colts?
I mean, hell, I mean, can you put in Arizona in that one with Kyler Murray? And
Maybe.
No, they extended him. No, there's no way.
I think they're more likely to get rid of their coach than they are. Murray.
I mean,
100%. 100%.
So it's kind of like you're right. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the Seahawks do see something in Geno Smith that we never saw, that we never got to see when he was back with Carolina and stuff like
He
that.
might
Like
pull
Geno Smith
Tannehill.
of West Virginia.
He
He's
might
been
pull
balling this
Tannehill.
year.
There you go. Titans also need a quarterback. I don't think they're sold on Tannehill. They have Malik Monk, but I don't know.
No, I think that one. No, I think the Malik Monk we have to see
True.
first. You can't
Yeah,
can't really
True.
base off on one season. The guy that hasn't really started because of Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah,
like you can't.
Still a lot of teams, Eric.
That one's a huge stretch. That one's huge.
Okay, that's
No,
fine.
They just drafted a quarterback last year.
We literally named like 6 teams that need quarterbacks,
right?
Regardless of the fact.
And those 6 teams, I mean, the Seahawks may or may not need one. All right, cool. They may like the Geno Smith until whatever, right? Maybe the quarterback is not there. The Denver
Lions.
Broncos. Well, they definitely don't need a quarterback because they got one in Russell Wilson, right?
maybe.
Right. Right. No,
They gave him 240 mil. They better have a quarterback.
The Jacksonville Jaguars are definitely not going to have a quarterback because they have literally what could possibly it may be, one of the best quarterbacks that came out of the draft a couple years ago in Trevor Lawrence, but that's already been a conversation because of Justin Fields. Then you got the Saints and Panthers that are up there that definitely going to need a quarterback in one of those two. So it's kind of like
there's a lot of teams, man. Come on, bro. Regardless, that number 2 pick should be a coveted pick because you have teams who.
But how far back do you really want to go? Like you don't want to go back 5th, 4th.
I get it, but it just doesn't have to be draft picks, right? It depends on what other teams they're willing to give up. But again, it's like.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you have to look at these teams that need a quarterback and want to move into the second position. And you have to look, do they offer anything or will they offer anything? Carolina, for example, let's say we give them the number 2 pick. Unless they're giving me DJ Moore and their edge rusher, their really young edge rusher, I could care less about the Panthers. I don't want anything from the Panthers. They don't have any talent because they traded all during the season.
Right.
And the only talent they have, they didn't give up during the season. Now, will they give it up for a quarterback? Exactly. Will they give it up for a quarterback?
Right.
And a second pick in the draft? Sure. But outside of that, I don't want anybody they have. DJ Moore would be a great pickup for Justin Fields. He would be a number 1 wide receiver on this Bears team. You know what I mean? But unless it's something like that, like I don't want it. What about, New Orleans? Or I'm sorry, the Eagles are going to have that pick. What about, let's say, the Seahawks? Do they want a quarterback? Do they want Geno Smith? They keep him on there, sure, pick for a CJ Stroud or a Williams. Okay, but what are they going to give me? I don't really see any weapons other than a Kenneth Walker III, offensively that I would want from the Seahawks. I don't, because that's what I'm thinking of.
I would take Metcalf.
Okay, yeah, I would probably take Metcalf too. But if you're getting a quarterback for a established 4th-year wide receiver in the league,
they're going to have to pay him. I don't know if they want to do that. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, we want to do that too. What? They already extended Metcalf. Yeah,
they already extended Metcalf.
Well, they can better for us. Trade him.
So those are the questions that come to my mind. Like, do they have anybody that's worth it? Because the pick, it doesn't matter to me. I just go farther back. You know what I mean? Like the Bears can go farther back. Can they get another one? Well, no, because they don't have another 1st-round pick. Do they have like 3 second-round? Like what are you valuing the second pick at if it's not established talent in the league already, where we can fill 2-3 holes in one trade or something like that? You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. I want established talent in the NFL, honestly.
Well, just remember, we're also I don't know if we're forgetting, right? But remember, free agency comes first before the draft, so the holes won't be that astronomical if we go the free agency route because it will solve a little bit of your problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, that's what I'm saying. Like the second pick is as value as it is. Like, do you really? Like, it just depends on on who do you really like. It's just a wait and see for what the Bears do in free agency. That's all. And then the free agency market class is not really all that great, to be honest with you. I think we're gonna get our edge rusher out of the draft, to be honest.
It doesn't look that good. I mean, the top 3 are quarterbacks, and it's Geno Smith, Lamar Jackson, and Tom Brady. Neither of which the Bears are going to get because they have Justin Fields. I don't know. I'm not really seeing any other big names here, but I guess that's kind of that's kind of what I'm looking at, man. Like I think,
and
like you said, free agency comes first, but I think through a trade for the second pick has to be one of the ways to go to get established talent. Other than that, you take a swing on one of the defensive ends or the edge rushers from Alabama or Georgia, and I think that's kind of
to be honest with you, like the trade for Claypool is starting to look bad because if we're getting the how it stands, the Steelers are getting the second pick in the second round, which is kind of a lot of people still view it as a very, very late first round pick because there's still talent in that pool. So it's kind of like, all right, it just sucks. That one's starting to hurt a little bit more than having the second overall pick.
I guess I could see it. I just don't think there's been enough time yet. And he looked good the last game, against the Packers. He was getting more receptions. He's getting a little more into the offense. But I don't know. That's just me. Other than that, like the Packers move into the most win all time against the Bears, 787 wins and the whole thing. But I mean, just because they've been, the Bears and the big Packers have been around the longest. So yeah, exactly. It's going to be between them two.
It means nothing.
Yeah, it means nothing. Like you were mentioning before, Fields with a 6th straight game with 50 yards rushing and at least 1 rushing touchdown. First time that any Bear has done that since Gale Sayers in 1969. And one thing you got to look at too, the Bears had 409 total yards, but they also had 5 penalties for 63 yards and 3 turnovers. So like the good and the bad, I'm always someone who likes to look at the positive. That was a lot of yards for the offense, and Fields just continues to amaze. So any final words for this game? The Bears go into the bye for week 14, and then they play the Eagles after that. But we'll do our predictions for that next week's episode.
Yes. No final words here, but it was it's been a good season so far, boys. Look at the positives, man.
We got a quarterback.
Yes, that's all we need.
That's all we need.
That's a win. Ooh. Every week he shows us he's good. That's a win.
Oh, here we go with Eric's bold statement. What is it?
Bold statement? You ready for this one?
Let's go.
Yesterday was Aaron Rodgers' last win in Chicago.
Oh, I like that.
You see what he said? It's been a second home to him.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Very disrespectful. I hope that's the case.
He's like, and
it's his last win.
It's the last win that I'm still here. Yeah, but I like that.
The fact that he says that he watched WGN and the Cubs and stuff like that. Like you keep the Cubs name out of your filthy mouth. You keep WGN
out of it.
Dirty bastard. You don't disrespect the greatest baseball team on earth in the Chicago Cubs with that mouth of yours. Get out of here. Get out of here.
There's no other Chicago baseball team other than the Cubs.
Exactly. There's only one baseball team in Chicago.
Jack and John are going to hear us like, are you
I don't care
me right now?
And it's true. It's true.
Fun stuff.
It feels like there's only one baseball team in Chicago, whether they want to admit it or not. And they could say everything that they want to say about their history. They can say whatever they want to say. The reality, the fact is that there's only one baseball team in Chicago that gets all the coverage, and that's the Cubs.
That's true. You're not wrong.
They could cry me a river for all I care.
All right. So that was Bears breakdown. Obviously, like I said, they're going into the bye week, and then they're going up against the Eagles the week following. Another loss Tony loves it. Tony football loves it. And, his football is in his name. So maybe he's on to something here. But Tony football loves the loss. Me and Eric want one more win, minimum, at least one more win, maybe against the Vikings or the Lions. But
at least give me a pre-birthday celebration in the new year by beating the Vikings. That's all I ask.
Hey, that'd be dope. I'd love it. I would love it.
No, we would not.
And
Rick, it's not like I'm just barely doing it. I've been saying this every year. You guys, Eric, the year they made the playoffs, the last time they made the playoffs when they faced the Saints, I was rooting for them not to, for the same exact reason. They needed
in 2018.
Develop. Yes, no,
not
19.
No, the one 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was when they faced the Saints. Drew Brees.
2019. That was the next year. Yeah,
the next year. I was rooting for them not to make the playoffs because it made no sense to me. Not one.
They did
2020, guys.
What did they? No, it wasn't 2020.
It was 2020.
Because Trubisky was a quarterback.
Yeah, Trubisky was
that was the last time.
That was his last year. That was 2019.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 2019 because I was like they lost in 2018 to the double doink, and then 2019
they didn't make the playoffs.
So yeah, they did it.
No, they did not make the playoffs. They didn't go to playoffs back-to-back years. They had like the 8-8 record, and then the following year, they had another 8-8 record.
Yeah,
but they made the playoffs with that one. And the year after, and then last year was whatever the record was.
And they lost. They lost the game to make the playoffs because the Colts lost, or not the Colts.
That's
I forgot what team lost for them.
No, it was the Colts. It was the Colts with Carson Wentz. Yeah, or was that last year? I don't remember.
No, you guys are talking about last year.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, like I said, that was Bears breakdown. Let's move into the C-Red segment. The Bulls on their West Coast trip over the last week, they went 1-3. The only win coming in Utah, 114-107. Then they lost 3 straight, first to the Suns, then the Warriors, and then the Kings of all teams. Like, Jesus Christ. I would not have expected the Kings to have been as good as they are this season. But let's start off with Utah. They took the win, 114-107. DeMar had 26 points, 6 assists. Zach with 20 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Vooch with a double-double, 16 and 10. And Kobe White had a good game off the bench with 15 points, as well as Drummond with a 10-10 double-double. And it was a good game against the Jazz. And this is a team that has former Bull marketing on there. But the Bulls outscored the Jazz 64-44 in the paint, had 23 points off 14 Jazz turnovers. And like I mentioned, marketing 32 points, Olenek 23 points, Sexton had 17 points. But Utah in that game lost their 5th straight. Tony basketball. That was their only win so far. What did you think of it? DeMar, again, the leading scorer, Levine with 20 points at least. I don't know.
In that game, it's as you mentioned, it's their only win, and they're gonna get wins because, as I mentioned last week, they're a professional team. It doesn't matter who they go up against, they're gonna beat one team at least once this season.
It's like the Bears.
Honestly, you know what? I'm not this team. Last year, something like this would piss me off, Rick. I'm not gonna lie. It would make me mad because I had so much more expectations for them. This time around, I don't.
Yeah,
I really don't. And I already have enough gray hairs growing in as it is.
Feel that.
I'm not. I just, it doesn't bother me. Like it sucks that we're like this, but. I honestly feel like we need to start trading. But to answer your question, DeMar DeRozan's going to continue to do his thing because he's the only consistent player we have on this team.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And as far as Zach LaVine, he's starting to look good. And I'm sure we're going to mention how many points he got this last game. He's starting to look a little bit better. But even if these two guys do start rolling, is it really going to make a difference? Of course it'll make a little bit of difference. But are we championship bound? You know what I mean?
No.
It's like.
Not at all.
And playoff bound.
Exactly.
And then the next game, right? That loss against the Suns, 132-13. Booker scored 51 points in 3 quarters. That's insane, dude.
Crazy.
Like in 3 quarters, he sat down in the 4th. It's just terrible Bulls defense. And this is just another game that shows it, that really shows the glaring problem the Bulls have, and that's their defense. They were up like 64-42 or something like that at the half. And again, DeMar, 29 points, Vooch, 17, Levine, 21, but it's nowhere near consistent. Then they go on to San Francisco, to the Bay Area, lose against the Warriors, 119 to 111. They had it close. It was a close game, but the Warriors are just so good and have been so good. They won the championship last year. You got Draymond making threes in clutch time. Like it's not Steph, it's not Clay, it's Draymond. And then you got Jordan Poole off the bench, 30 points. And I finally like at least Billy brought in Caruso to start for Io. So there's like some moves being made, and Zach ended up with 21 points. DeMar had 16 on an off day. And you mentioned the last game against the Kings, they lost 110 to 101, but Zach had 41 points. And it seemed like he was the only one kind of doing anything really, right? And they still lost. 41 points from Zach, and they still lost. I don't like the issue here has to be moving the ball, because it seems like they're playing a lot of ISO ball. I don't know if that's what you've seen from the Bulls, Eric. I don't know if that's what you've seen from the Bulls, if you've watched the Bulls, because I'm very rarely watching the Bulls, because like this is just rough to see.
No, I stick to him. I watch, and you're absolutely right. The ball movement isn't there. There's a lot of ISO basketball coming from especially one player. And when it comes down to crunch time, it's just like it's a matter of who wants the ball or who gets the ball, and they go for the hot hand, and it's just basically just one person, because Zach LaVine isn't that guy, even though he scored 41. So regardless of the fact he's not going to get the ball if the game is close, no matter what. Yeah. He hasn't proven that already. So it's kind of like it's to the point where it's to have this conversation after building this team last year and what they've succeeded last year, and all we needed was just just health and see what this team could be made of. Now we're just talking about trades, and it's weird, and it's sad that it's going down this road. The Bulls just don't have what it takes to compete in the NBA defensively, and that's what kills them. Yeah. They can't defend teams no matter what at all. So it's kind of like it doesn't matter what they do on the offensive side of the ball; they just cannot guard anyone, no matter the star value of the player is or not. They even get the second or the third best players go off on them too as well. So it's kind of like it's hard to watch Bulls basketball knowing that the team has so much potential and so much talent, and then that's the performance they give us night in and night out. Like I was like Devin Booker. I only watched the game for 3 quarters, and then I stopped watching the fourth. I busted Devin Booker that day, bro. Like it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch after last year. They finally got tuned into Bulls basketball, and I've watched probably like 60% of the games last year, including playoffs. And it's like this year, it's kind of like it's starting to turn back to the Bulls of old, where it's kind of hard to watch Bulls basketball.
And it seemed to me like last year, I was like, wow, the Bulls have held a lot of teams under 100 points in consecutive games. Final scores were like Bulls 107, this team 98. Bulls 115, this team 99. And I was like, wow. And it just completely flipped the script this season. And Billy, I think wants to preach let's get 25 plus assists every game. Let's get the ball movement. Let's get at least every single, or at least 5 to 7 players in double digits. And that's what we're talking about, the ISO ball. One specific player, like Eric said, is doing that quite a bit. And we are talking about trades now, because DeMar and Zach, they've all been playing pretty consistently, but it's like you said, we're getting to the trades now. Like who could we get the most value out of? Tony, do you feel the same? Like, are you starting to think about trading?
Absolutely. If it's either one or two things for me. It's either we start trading away and we go a whole different approach here, or we get a new coach that maybe could spark these guys and have a whole new, I guess, culture in that locker room that can help. And I know Eric's shaking his head. I get it, right? It's like that. It's almost like putting a Band-Aid, because Eric's shaking his head because he doesn't feel that we don't have the talent. I somewhat agree. I really don't see a path with the way that the team is constructed that could really help us go into a championship. I only say either bring in new coaches to see what sparks it. But to be honest with you, it's like I feel like the path that we're going down right now, at least as it looks right now, doesn't look like it's going to get us to a championship. And to me, that's the only goal you should have. It's not really to make the next round of the playoffs. It's to literally to win a championship. We're not going to defeat any of the teams that are on the top of the NBA right now. We're not.
Well, even with that, so I mean, for the Bulls to even compete for the championship, I think you still need to learn how to get out of the first round. Regardless, I think even moving on to the next step of getting out of the first round is more of a successful step than even trying to compete
but you need
for
superstars.
a championship.
But you need superstars to
And I
even
get that.
to even think about that. So that's what I'm saying. Like that's where I'm coming from as far as the only goal should be winning a championship. If the only goal for me is to win a championship, then I know what I need in the NBA. You need a minimum of 2 superstars to win a championship. We don't even have one. So it's like, to me, it's like, I'm not even worried. I'm not going to sit here and be, all right, guys, what can I do to get out the second round? Because you could probably get out the second round if you add just one superstar to this team. But that's not what I want. I don't want to be a team that's always just going to the second round or the Eastern Conference Finals like we did with the Bulls with Derrick Rose, and we don't do anything else after that. I want a team that's going to win a championship because that's all that matters. That's the only thing that has yet to happen since Jordan. Yeah. We made the Eastern Conference Finals already. We had an MVP already on this team. Did nothing for us. We had a good head coach. We need a championship. Well, get us superstars. I mean, the only way that's going to happen now. The only way that's going to happen now is if one falls into your lap via free agency, which doesn't look likely, or we start over. We start from scratch, and we try to get a number one pick in the draft in the future. That's it.
See, but even with that mindset, though, it's kind of like, okay, it's the Bulls of what we've seen for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. Like it's a new regime that came in to like revamp this all over again. We're rebuilding all over again with it. It's just it's like what was the reason for them? Like, and I get it. Let me go by say this, and I get it. They did what they can with this roster that they inherited with the previous regime, with the players that they got. They made trades to get their players, a la Vucevic, signing DeMar DeRozan, getting Lonzo Ball. And who knew Lonzo Ball was like the linchpin out of all of this? You know, ever since his injury, the Bulls haven't really been the same. But even getting Lonzo Ball, drafting Patrick Williams, getting Dalen Terry, getting Alex Caruso on top of that, like they kind of like rebranded or retooled this team to the previous regime, and it's kind of like it still doesn't feel like a AK Eversley type of team. But even then, so like you did all that hard work just for you to like tear it down and start all over again. It's kind of like why? It just doesn't sound right.
No, it does. Let me tell you why. This team hasn't this team hasn't been in a rebuild since before Derrick Rose. That was the last time when they started getting Joakim Noah, Derrick Rose, when they started getting that team together. That was the last rebuild we had. It started to look like a rebuild because the team was so bad in the last years of Gar and Pax. And then when Eversley and AK came in, they didn't tear it down to rebuild. No, they just added pieces. They made this team better through free agency, and we're now seeing what that's doing. It's not working. So they have yet to come in and tear this team down completely to start over from foundation up and rebuild. We haven't seen that from these guys. So it does make sense. All they did was come in and put in placeholders because they thought it would work. And it looked like, at least last year in the beginning of the season, like it would, but it's not. And we all know here that it's not going to. So it does make sense that if they do pick that lane, it's the only lane they haven't done. What else are they going to do? They're going to put more placeholders here. Who's coming in free agency to help us out? Nobody. So the only other way is to trade away for either a draft picks or one superstar. And even if you have that one superstar, that's at least better than where we're at now. Because again, you're not going to win anything anyways. But now you start building around him, whether it's free, whether it's through the draft or whatever else. So it does make sense.
But I think with Rose and Noah, right? Like you still had guys from the previous team. You still had Ben Gordon. You still had Luol Deng. You still had those veterans. So I think I agree. Like I think Dalen Terry, Io, guys like that should continue to be on the team. But I think out of this starting lineup and out of the guys they've gotten, AK and Eversley, I think you keep Zach and you keep DeMar. You keep them as like your veterans, like the guys that are going to be there this entire time. And you start playing Dalen Terry and you start getting some more free agent young talent that'll maybe like, hey, this guy might do something. And then you build through the draft a little bit. Obviously you're going to stink this year, but I don't know. Because that's kind of how they did it with Rose. You know, they picked Rose, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, we got our MVP. You get a guy like Dalen Terry, or you get a guy in the next draft who might be an MVP type of guy. It might flip.
Yeah, I don't know.
No,
about
Rick.
That one.
Sorry, really?
But no.
I
mean, I don't know if you guys. I mean, I don't know if you guys follow the diehard Bulls fan page on Facebook, right? And I get it. It's not the best way to get your Bulls information and here and there, and they just copy and paste everything.
They see
like
red a lot, Eric. They read red. They'll come up with some outrageous. I follow them.
Trade proposals.
I mean, it is pretty outrageous.
It is.
But have you seen the post of their latest trade where they have the Knicks, the Lakers, and the Warriors? With the Bulls.
Yeah.
Have you seen it, Jose?
We get AD and we get like somebody else.
No.
Stay away from AD, please.
This is the trade. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. The Bulls trade to the Warriors Andre Drummond, Alex Caruso, and Javonte Green.
Mm-hmm.
The Bulls trade to the Knicks Zach LaVine and Derrick Jones Jr. And the Bulls trade to the Lakers DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic. In return, the Bulls get Derrick Rose, Russell Westbrook, what is it? Harrenstein? I think that's what it is. Cam Reddish, James Wiseman, Obi Toppin, Baldwin Jr., Hardy from the Mavericks. I don't know how the hell he popped up. Cunnings, and then they get the Lakers first round in 2029, the Knicks first round pick in 2028.
Jesus.
The Warriors draft pick in 2025.
Stop. None of those guys are going to be
the
there.
The Lakers draft pick in 2027. The Knicks first round.
None of those guys are going to be there in 2029 when we finally get a first round pick. No, I don't want to hear no more.
First round draft pick of the Knicks in 2025. That's via from the LA Lakers. The 2025 draft, the 2025 first round pick for the Mavericks.
That's exactly
the
what we're
first
talking
round
about.
2026 of the Knicks and the 2023 first round draft pick via the Dallas Mavericks from the Knicks.
No, that's way too complicated for even Woj to be put on a tweet.
This Bulls team in 20
it was who was it? Hold on.
This Bulls team in 10 years is gonna be stacked, bro.
And half those guys that we traded for won't even be there. Derrick Rose will be retired. Russell Westbrook will be retired. You know what I mean? It's like
dead.
Right. It's like no, Eric. And that's why I'm saying a rebuild makes sense unless you're getting a superstar.
That's a rebuild, though.
No, it's not.
I mean,
man.
you're getting players that they're in the tail end of the career. Plus, you're getting Wiseman and you're getting Obi Toppin, players that you can kind of build around.
That right? You're going to end up trading Dalen Terry.
You still keep. I think Patrick Williams is still in there some way somehow.
Yeah,
he
will
be
still
your
in
leading scorer.
And
then you're getting picks. Literally, you still have your picks for next year, and then the years after that. Literally, you have multiple first round picks for the next 4 or 5 years. Even then,
Eric was saying all the things we would get, and I was like that meme of that woman trying to do math, that blonde chick, and I was like, what are we getting? Like, like it's insane, dude. Like that page has the most insane. It's like we can get Kevin Durant if we give up Zach LaVine, DeMar, Vooch, and I'm like, so what are we doing with Kevin Durant? Kevin Durant is going to want to get out of the team next year. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like there's just a lot of stuff, but I don't know. It seems right now this is kind of what we're stuck with for the next year, unless somehow during the trade deadline we, AK and Eversley make some sort of splash. Is there anything you're kind of looking forward, I guess, towards the free agency?
No, I honestly I don't have it in front of me, but last time I checked, I don't think there was really anything that's worth noted. We just need Lonzo to come back healthy, and then from there it depends on what lane they choose. You know what I mean? It's like been very disappointing. It doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon. And I think that's just the most frustrating part. We, giving Zach LaVine, although we all like Eric was the biggest one saying that it should have happened, but it had to. Otherwise, it's like, then I really do agree that then it's like it's a bad rep on Chicago again, where you don't pay your players. You know what I mean? What regardless if we knew it made sense, those players they're divas, they're prima donna, they're gonna see it differently. Why would I go to Chicago if they're not gonna pay? They didn't pay Zach LaVine and all that time he did over there. Why would they pay me? You know what I mean? So it's like
I mean,
Perception is reality, and we've seen that a lot in our Chicago teams. You know what I mean?
all right, you guys are ready for
So-
the unrestricted free agents list for next year?
Yes, let's go.
All right, so Russell Westbrook,
Nope.
right, is one.
Obviously.
No.
Kyrie Irving is another.
Yep.
Kevin Love.
I'll take Kyrie actually.
I'd love some anti-Semitism in Chicago.
D'Angelo Russell.
Like we don't already got enough with Kanye West, man. He's representing
that's
Chicago.
Nikola Vucevic, who probably won't come back, right?
No.
The next one, Harrison Barnes, Jamari Grant, Miles Turner, Karis LeVert,
Jeremy
Will
Grant. I'd like
Barton,
Jeremy Grant.
right? Terrence Ross, Brooke Lopez, and Patrick Beverly, right? Here are the players that have the player option that can be free agents depending if they don't sign in. Chris Middleton, James Harden, Kristaps Porzingis, Draymond Green, Fred VanVleet, Bogan Bogdanovic,
Hmm.
Gary Trent Jr., and Kyle Kuzma. Oh, and Jordan Clarkson.
I like Kuzma, Clarkson, and Draymond Green. Imagine if we could add those guys to the Bulls with this team. The way it's constructed.
I like Middleton. I like Middleton too.
Me too.
But those that I just said, right? Patrick, you said
Player
Kuzma
options.
and Draymond Green. Those are player options, so they
player
can right.
Other teams could match it. I get it.
Yeah.
But imagine if they don't. Maybe if the Warriors don't want to match Draymond Green, I know he's on the team. I know he's not the same, but he still brings more toughness than what we have now.
100%.
Way more tough. He'll hit these guys in the face in practice if they don't get on defense. I think we need that.
He'll punch Zach in the face if he wants to, bro.
We need him.
You'll like go for rebounds, unlike Vooch.
You know what? You trade away Zach LaVine for me. You bring me D'Angelo Russell, and you bring me Miles Turner, and hell, even a Karis LeVert. Guys,
no.
Team.
I like Jordan Clarkson and Kyle Kuzma. Those guys are studs.
Yeah, Jordan Clarkson is good too.
Kyle Kuzma is a stud over there.
To be better, yeah.
Those guys are studs, man. I would. Their offense, their instant offense.
Yeah.
I would take them.
I would take them too, but those guys have player options, so it's kind of like, okay, we'll see. We'll see what they got. I mean, if you want me to go like all the way like down to the bottom of the barrel, I mean, Danny Green is up here, Jay Crowder is up here, Victor Oladipo is down here, Kemba's still down here.
No, Kemba.
They didn't want him over there in Charlotte. What the hell?
That's true. Or in Boston.
And yeah, everything else is like restricted free agents. It's kind of like it's kind of like okay. I already gave you like the top ones, but after
those
that,
it's kind of like dude. Like we have a rough stretch here.
Those guys make us better. They'll get us to the next level, but they're not getting us to a championship.
No.
I would rather look a championship. I'm not even looking for a championship for the next like 2 or 3 years. Simply because like we still haven't built that mold of being a competitive team in the first place. Last year was just the stepping stone, right? With this team originally constructed, right? Mm-hmm. This year, I mean, minus Alonzo Ball, ever since he went down, it hasn't really been the same. But give me a whole different some new blood around here. It may work, but again, it's still the same stepping stone. Give me a first round playoff. Yeah. Give me a better competitive first round playoff. Then after that, if you get out of the first round, then that's marginally success. And then you keep building after that, year in and year out. That's just the way how I see it. I mean, that's the way
they're constructed.
Move. That's the way
the way they're constructed, Eric. The only way that's going to happen is if they're just bringing in more guys, and that's still not getting you anywhere. You're not going to get to a championship until you get like a superstar on this team. Yeah, and if you're just bringing more guys and you're just limiting your cap space a lot more by bringing in more role players or B-list guys, it's not going to help this team. This team has to pick a lane. This team has to pick a lane right now. How are they going to get to the next? They'll get to the next level easily, but how will they get to a championship with this team constructed now? How?
I mean, hey, we were the number one team in the very stacked Eastern Conference when Lonzo Ball was in this team, and even then, so it was still a very well-oiled machine. We just haven't seen it in the playoffs, and there's times where the teams won a championship without a superstar like that. So it can happen.
You're giving too much credit to Lonzo. This team, if Lonzo was the only missing piece, this team shouldn't be this bad. I'm sorry.
I mean, Lonzo brings you everything on both sides of the ball. He even plays
Not this
defense
bad,
too
Eric.
as well. It's just
Not this bad.
It's I think
now it's just kind of like, okay, we just need to see. We just need to see what Lonzo brings, and if he doesn't bring the same thing, then I think you just blow it up. It's
the way the NBA is constructed these days, man. It's like the NFL. You need a high scoring offense and a quarterback. You need two, maybe a really good role player, two NBA superstars and a really good role player on your team to get there to win. You know, the Bucks had Giannis, and they had Middleton there, and they had Bobby Portis. They had a lot of these role playing guys who did their job, but it was like the offense moved through Giannis. The offense moves through Kevin Durant. The offense moves through Steph and Clay and Draymond. You know what I mean? Like this is, and then you got Jordan Poole coming off 30 points. That's what we need from like our bench. That's what we need from our starters. Booker, 51 points for Booker, and he's got a great complimentary guy.
You don't have that guy.
I'm so mad.
Jason Tatum.
I am still so upset that we were just a couple picks away from Ja Morant. Can you imagine Ja Morant on the Bulls? Man, dude, that'd be disgusting.
But you keep naming the list. Jason Tatum. Those are all the teams that Joel Embiid. Those are the teams that have championship aspirations. We don't have that guy.
Yeah.
So we can make with Lonzo Ball. We can make it to the second round. It's not going to happen. We're not going to get any better after that. We're not unless we get a guy like one of the guys we mentioned, and that's not going to happen unless one of them comes here or we draft one. You know what I mean?
I agree.
We should have never signed Zach, and we would probably never been in this situation.
That's all I gotta say, man.
I mean, that's what happens when you sign a guy who's not even top 30, who's barely top 30.
Just like Tony's saying, man, at that point we would have picked a lane, but I think there was still so much hope in Zach getting to that other like level, like scoring 41 every other game instead of once in the season. You know what I mean? Like I think there was that hope in him, and we talked about like a complimentary piece. You got DeMar there. So just in case one day Zach isn't feeling so hot, DeMar is going to score 26, 30 points, from the mid range. But it's just Zach LaVine has not taken that next step. That's really it.
Yep. I agree. That's why the contract should have never been made.
Yeah. Yeah.
With that being said, they still can play. He still can play to that potential if it just magically happens, but it can.
And I mean, after that loss against the Kings, there was reporters in there, and then there was a report that him and DeMar were like sitting next to each other, just talking about what's going on and how frustrated they are with this win and how we have to play better and this and that, So you never know. Things like this happen where you come off a loss off a terrible West Coast trip, and things just start to turn around.
Yeah.
Now, again, we said, are we to the next level of like, hey, we have championship aspirations? Probably not. But I still think there's plenty of season left to turn it around. We're only down 5 games, right? We're only 5 below 500, where they can turn it around to make it a season like last season.
It could be the complete opposite. They can start getting hot towards the end.
They could.
You know what I mean? Look, I wouldn't put it past this team. I really wouldn't. It's just, to me, it's like it's always been for me, my mindset's always like championship or bust. So yes, they could turn it around and have a good year going to the playoffs, but we all know it. That's all that's going to be. You know what I mean? And then to me, it's like, okay, cool. Let's watch them, get bounced off the first round. Hopefully it's competitive. It sucks. Yeah. It sucks feeling that way, but it's always been the case when it comes to our teams here in Chicago.
It is, and recently too. So,
let me know when they start playing defense, and then I'll give you a great answer. But until they start playing defense, man, this team has no shot of making even the playoffs. To be honest,
yeah, it's gonna be like that's what really needs to improve is the defense too. I agree.
How do you guys feel that Billy Donovan got a whole contract extension and nobody over the offseason, and nobody even knew about it until over the weekend?
Crazy.
You were talking about let him go, and I was like, and in my mind I was like, but he just got rescinded, right? Like that's insane to me that nobody knew anything. There was no leaks, nothing. That's just insane. But maybe that's kind of Chicago sports. It's like it's not even leak worthy that they care that Billy Donovan got.
At least for the Bulls, is not.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. All right. So that was C-Red segment. I mean, they got the Wizards and the Mavs at home, and then they travel to Atlanta to take on the Hawks for the next week before our next show. let's move on to. Sorry.
0-3.
0-3. I guess they're gonna lose 6 in a row. Let's move on to 4 stars of the week, brought to you by Star 6 Media here on Big League Chicago. 4 stars of the week. We're gonna pick 4 players, coaches, fan bases, whatever, out of this last week in Chicago sports. I'll start it off, and I think this is kind of an easy one. I mean, it's Justin Fields and his, really improved passing game. Like, not even the fact that he rushed for a 55-yard touchdown, because that's pretty easy to kind of look at and be like, wow, but 254 yards on 20, completions, no passing touchdowns. But again, like that is just showing that he's improving. Obviously he had the 2 interceptions, but my first star of the week goes to Justin Fields and the really good improved passing week he had on top of the rushing touchdown and being the first player to do that since Gale Sayers. So good for Justin. Mr. Tony Football, you want to go next for a second star?
Yeah, although we just talked about the Bulls and they have been pretty disappointing. I do want to give Levine his props. I want to give him his props because at least the last game, 41 points is still 41 points. You know what I mean? So I guess it's against the Kings, but the Kings have been playing very well as of late. They're on a little hot streak right now. But so maybe just maybe this is something that he needed, this confidence. Like, hey, I could be this guy, because we haven't seen a game like this from Levine in a long time, guys. Very long time. So I'm gonna give him his props where props are due. So my star of the week is definitely Zach Levine for that 41 point performance, and I'm hoping it sparks something in him to continue this going forward, because we definitely need it here.
Love it. Second star of the week goes to Zach Levine for his really good game against the Kings. Mr. Eric Hoops, who's the third star of the week this week?
The Hoops and Basketball Podcast. I love it.
Third star of the week, guys, goes from a guy who plays here in the Chicago Fire, who's representing the Chicago Fire in the World Cup, and that's Jordan Shaqiri, who plays tomorrow in the round of 16 against Portugal. That's going to be my star of the week, coming out second in the group in a very tough group against Brazil. He had the game-winning goal to put him into the round of 16 last game to get him in there. So shout out to Shaqiri for bringing in to representing Chicago globally here in the World Cup.
I love it. And let's end with the 4th star of the week. Is there anybody else you guys think should deserve this 4th star of the week?
Yeah,
Tony, who is it?
The only bright spot right now, other than Justin Fields on the Bears, and that's Jack Sanborn. Has to be
Jack Sanborn.
The way this guy plays.
Let's go.
The way this guy,
I was thinking the same thing.
What is it? Crystal
the way this guy plays, he's not fast,
Yeah.
but it's just his instincts are spot on in that position, man. Even the 22nd pick of the Packers last year, who's also a defensive, I think he's a linebacker or defensive. I forget what position he plays, but he was even giving praise to Jack Sanborn, someone who was undrafted. Like, hey, this guy, he's legit. He's legit. He's getting praise everywhere he goes, from his teammates and from the opponents. So shout out to Jack Sanborn, man. Dude is killing. It's a good pickup.
Yeah,
it's a good pickup.
And undrafted too.
Yeah.
You did your scouting report very well if you pick up somebody undrafted like that.
That I believe in polls and his evaluation of talent. I mean, you get someone like that, absolutely. Jack Sanborn getting double-digit tackles almost every week. So yes, he definitely deserves the love from us here for 4 stars of the week. And that was.
And it's crazy how Roquan Smith still leads the Bears in tackles, and he's no longer here. He hasn't been here in like 4 or 5 weeks.
Give Sanborn the rest of the season. He might get up there. But all right, guys, that was Big League Chicago. That was this week's episode. If you are watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching us on Facebook, also hit that like and subscribe button. Other than that, follow us not only on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, but follow us on Instagram, on TikTok as well. We'll be putting up clips, all that good stuff. Obviously, we'll be putting up the schedule for the shows as well, so that way you guys could tune in and check us out here. Other than Big League Chicago, go check out EAFP with Eric. He's going over all the World Cup news. A lot of good games coming up. Also, stay tuned for Only Football coming up here a little bit later, close to 8 p.m. or I'm sorry, 10 p.m. Central Time. Also, stay tuned for JCA Sports on Wednesdays, Sports Strip Live, where you're getting all your MMA, boxing, and wrestling updates. 3 Up, 3 Down for your baseball content, and our newest podcast, I think about 4 episodes deep, Slot Shot Hockey Pod. Yes. Yeah, go check us out. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple, Slapshot.
I keep saying Slapshot.
Eric, yeah. Eric kept saying the wrong name.
Which is also a good name.
It's also a good name, yeah, 100%.
I would have said 5-hole but it is what it is.
But thank you guys for joining us here on Big League Chicago, brought to you by Star 6 Media. All right, boys. I'll see you guys next week.
Peace.
See ya.